right. I'm thrilled to have my good friend Jonah Wharton with me today on Actors Anonymous podcast. And I'm especially thrilled because for all you aspiring actors out there, Jonah is actually not only an actor, he's an acting coach who was mentored by our previous acting coach, which is Aaron Spicer, who's one of the well-known coaches in Los Angeles. So, Jonah, thanks for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Indeed. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, brother.
Been a little minute. It's good to talk to you.
It's been a while. The last time we saw each other was random. We bumped into each other at LAX out of nowhere. You had a mask on, I had a mask on, but somehow we recognized each other.
Right as everything was shutting down.
Exactly. So at the time, I think you were getting back from Ghana, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
No, I was getting back from Washington, D.C.
Okay. So you were back east visiting your sister, I think it was?
Visiting my sister.
Okay.
It was March 2020. So right before.
Wow.
Right the day pretty much they shut everything down.
So you got back when right when they shut everything down. You left the day before, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, what timing. So your roots are on the East Coast, right?
No, I'm actually from the Bay Area.
Okay, you're from the Bay Area. So can you tell the audience a little bit about where you're from and how you wound up in Los Angeles and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. I'm from the Bay Area. I actually grew up in Sausalito, which is just outside of San Francisco. Grew up on a houseboat, a waterfront community. It's kind of weird, like a bohemian squatter type community in Sausalito there. So I grew up on a boat. And I was there like my whole, until I was 18, all growing up. And then after high school, to get out, I played basketball. So I was a basketball player. I ended up going to a small junior college in the Central Coast of California, Santa Maria. It's called Allen Hancock College. So I went there for basketball, JUCO. Ended up there. I played at like a tournament somewhere, and somehow I ended up getting connected with that school in the middle of nowhere. Went there, ended up redshirting, just sitting there kind of like bored out of my mind in the middle of nowhere, and kind of realized I really wasn't going to go far with basketball. Kind of had that.
You said you were redshirting. Were you hurt?
No, wasn't even hurt.
Okay.
It
just kept you on the team. It kept you on the team.
Kept me on the team.
Yeah.
But I played point. They had a couple point guards, and I just wasn't. I was good enough to get there, but not to really go further than that. And I was just miserable there.
Well, let me ask you: before you got there, did you have hopes of professional ball or going to the next level before you actually got there? Like, was that your plan?
Oh yeah. No, I was like my whole life. I was like, I'm gonna be in the NBA.
Okay. So you were serious. You were serious about it.
Oh yeah, I was serious.
Yeah.
I was serious, and with sports, well, I don't know, like with basketball and sports especially, you don't have any kind of room for being realistic. You got to just believe in yourself to a delusional sense. So I definitely believed I was going to the league.
Okay. At
a certain point, I realized I can't even get playing time on a junior college team. This might not be what I thought it was. So kind of came to that realization, and I didn't want to go back home. I didn't want to stay there, because I didn't want to end up 3 years in this small town. It wasn't even a college town. It was just a JUCO. There was the athletes, and there was the the adults going to school. I'm 17, 18, turning 18. So I was out. I didn't want to go back home. So I said, I'll come down to LA. But just on a whim, really. I didn't want to go. I was like, I lived my whole life in the Bay Area. I want to go somewhere new. I came close to going to New York. But I ended up just going to LA because I was the next closest city. Didn't know a soul out here. I was like, I'm going to come to LA for maybe a year. And I came down, I enrolled in school. I actually started running track over at West LA College. I still was doing sports. But I was also just struggling to pay rent, supporting myself. Getting school financial aid, working odd jobs while playing a sport. And Yeah, and I just lived in LA. I didn't come here to act. So that was the interesting thing. I had no concept of acting.
So there was no inkling in your mind of acting, no nothing. No school plays that planted a seed, nothing.
No, I took drama my freshman year of high school, and it was just like ridiculous and kind of dumb, and it wasn't for me. And then the next year, they're like, "You got to do stuff after school." I'm like, "I play sports. I'm on a basketball team. I don't have time for this shit." So, nah, like it was no inkling of it. Even when I came out here, I actually worked at a restaurant. I worked at Norm's restaurant over there in La Cienega. This was my first job out here, and I remember like the waiters there were all like aspiring actors. And I just thought that shit was hilarious because I thought that was just like one of those stereotypes that's not really true, like the waiter aspiring actor. And I just remember thinking that it was funny. And I had no interest in it. I was like, all right, whatever. And then I just spent a few years out here. I went to school and I stopped going just to like, I was like, take a year off just to like hustle and, make money. I did all kinds of odd jobs. I drove a yellow cab.
Wow.
Years old, I was driving like with a Thomas in LA, like picking up people in a yellow cab, and I did that just so I could have a car to drive because I didn't have a car. Delivered pizzas, drove a limo, furniture moving. I've done it all, just like hustling survival mode, really.
Yeah.
And I got into acting. I started. I was dating a girl, and she was a dancer, professional dancer. She lived up in North Hollywood. And she was like, serious, like on tour and all that. And she would audition for a commercial. I had gone to a couple commercial auditions, just like, had kind of like got into that world a little bit, not acting yet. But she was like, listen, you got to like actually dress nice with this. She dressed me up and I go out for a commercial audition. I ended up booking a commercial, a Burger King commercial. And I think that's what planted this thing that I could act because it paid like thousands of dollars. Then I was in the union. I got like, it was SAG. So like, oh, I'm gonna join this and just act. This is good money. I work one day, I can get like $20,000, $30,000. Are you kidding me? Then I just kind of had in my idea for a couple of years, like, yeah, I'm gonna act, but I never did anything, never studied or anything like that. That was but yeah, that's what planted the seed. And a couple years after that, so when I was like 24, I think I was like, all right, maybe I should like really try to act. It's still in my head, I'd done a couple commercials. I'd done like some modeling stuff. I got to go to the modeling agency, got to travel a little bit. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's like, let me try to act, at least seemed easy. And I took a couple acting classes and I was good in acting class, but I knew I had no respect for the craft of acting because I joined an acting class and they just be like doing a bunch of yelling, ridiculous shit. And I could do that. It was like nothing to me. People would like applaud and say, that's great. I'm like, I don't think this is really good, but hey, whatever. But it really didn't make me respect the craft. It's like I just saw a bunch of bullshit, fake acting shit that wasn't really attractive to me. But what was attractive was like easy money. Or what I thought was easy money. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And but after that, I ended up going to Aaron Spicer. That's where we met.
What year was that?
2007.
Okay.
2007. I ended up going to Aaron Spicer's acting class, and he was just speaking some real shit that kind of like made sense. And I remember I went there and like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And I kind of learned from him that, this is something you can actually work on. Because to me, I just thought like, that's kind of natural, say the line, and it didn't seem too difficult. But I learned from him, like that was the first time I got a respect for it because I did a scene that was terrible. I just yelled a bunch because that's what everybody always told me to do. Yell more, yell, and like passion, and I could do that. And he was like, that was terrible. It's like everyone wants to do the scene and it's always terrible. You're no different, but I'm gonna show you how to make it better. So that was the first time like something was like clicked in me, like, oh wait, this is something you can like study and get better at. It's like, okay. maybe I'll actually try to get good at this. So it really wasn't anything other than like it clicked that I had a respect for the craft. I've always been like an obsessive person. When I played sports and I played basketball, I would just like try to outwork everybody. When I was a kid, I would like in high school, for example, I'd like break into the gym at in the middle of the night, and every night from like 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. when everyone's asleep, I'd be like working on my shot, practicing. Practicing stupid because I ended up being sleep deprived and then always getting hurt because I never slept. I'm like a teenager. So that was just kind of my mentality already. So then at a certain point, I had my lost couple of years and then I kind of clicked in. I was like, okay, I can actually get good at this craft. And I was like, all right, maybe I should do acting. I felt like I had some natural talent. I did have a feel, like kind of feeling that I could, for whatever reason, people responded well to it without me doing anything. Like, if I take something that have at least a natural, some talent, maybe better than average talent, and give that same kind of drive and work ethic towards that, maybe I can get somewhere with it. So
to that point, you kind of, well, you fell into it like a lot of other actors, right? You did the whole come to LA with nothing in your pocket, and you did that whole cliche thing.
For sure, except I didn't come to act. I just happened to be here, and
right. It kind of found you. It kind of found you. You know. So once you got into Aaron's class, he solidified it for you. He kind of bridged the gap and showed you that this is actually a real thing. There's a real art and technique to it, and that's when you started taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So just to let the audience know, we were in the same class. We were in Aaron. His name is Aaron Spicer. He's one of the few on-set acting coaches. He's probably best known for being Will Smith's on-set acting coach. So if Will Smith is shooting a film, he'll be on set with him throughout the duration, coaching him throughout. Also Gerard Butler and a lot of other people. I'm sure you know most of his clients. At one point, he was known as the rappers acting coach because he coached LL Cool J, J-Lo, and all these other different people. He's also from New York, like myself, so he kind of has that no nonsense attitude. And then you related to that. That's what what turned you on. Kind of, there was no bullshit involved.
Yeah, he didn't bullshit me. He's brilliant. So I've heard other, my experience before is other acting teachers. I could just I just see right through it. I didn't know much about acting, but I knew what they were saying was some bullshit.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, this guy's smart, just about life. Forget acting. He's just like a wise person. And I was like, okay.
Definitely. I relate to that as well, for sure. And a lot of these acting, I mean, I'm sure you've been to different acting classes. I've been to different acting classes. It's kind of part of the process, the nature of the beast. And it's very cultish. You know what I mean? It feels like a cult.
It's really uncomfortable. I think that's actually what turned me off to a lot of acting too. It's weird,
Yeah.
But I think people go there and you end up like opening up, like depending on the place, but people will open up, because a lot of acting is so personal. So it kind of just lends itself to that. You're in a class where you open up about all this really personal shit with a bunch of people. Now you feel like you're kind of connected. Even if you didn't mean to open up, now you have to justify why you opened up. It becomes like a family.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how cults work. So I feel like
definitely
like last cult, it's kind of like,
Yeah. It feels like a church youth group thing. It feels like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you hear about the gold rush and they say the smart people made money off the equipment, the shovels and the pans and stuff like that. So obviously Hollywood, a lot of people come here with a preconceived notion, unlike you and I, but they come here, I'm going to be an actor. And they wind up being a casting agent or working in the back office or doing something related to entertainment, acting coach. You know what I mean? So okay, continue. So now you're in Aaron's class, and in the beginning, you said it was a struggle. He was critiquing you, and he was giving you the real deal as far as your acting is concerned. So how did you progress from there?
I mean, to me, it wasn't a struggle. It was just like, oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I was hoping somebody could tell me something other than, yeah, that's great, So I kind of like pretty quickly realized that it was something you could work on. And then once I knew it was something you can get better at, I was like, all right, let me let me do this. Let me get obsessed and just fascinated by it. So I wouldn't say it was a struggle. I mean, he would criticize me, but I mean, that's what I was looking for. That's, you know, it's what you're paying for when you go to somebody to help you out, is, you know, not tell you you're great.
I mean, you're thick-skinned and you're tough, right? But to some people, it's a
yeah. I guess I got thick skin. Yeah, I guess I have thick skin, but it didn't even feel like thick skin. It just felt like he was trying to help. It didn't feel like, all right, I just got to shake that off. It's like,
yeah.
when someone says that's terrible, this is how I'm going to make it better. I'm like, I'm just listening to the part about how I can be better, as opposed to like, I'm okay with him criticizing me. It's like, well, you know, for whatever, maybe the athletic background makes you. Maybe.
Also, just your background in general. You know, you weren't born with a silver spoon, etc. You weren't spoiled, you know.
Right.
But to some people, if somebody says to them, you know what, you suck, which Aaron will say to you in your face, you suck. That was horrible, right? To some people, that's like soul crushing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think that's what
you suck. He just said that scene was terrible.
Right.
Here's why, and here's what you need to do. And then it wasn't just like, you suck. And I'm like sitting there, okay. It was like, that scene was terrible. Like, that was just, you're just doing way too much. You're like shaking, like, cause I had like trying to get all this passion, like, and it was just, you know, and he was like, no, just relax, say a couple of words. Yeah, there you go. That's good. So it wasn't just a blanket, you suck. It was like, you know, a little way to fix it. So, but yeah, for whatever reason, my upbringing, natural personality meant that I don't really take criticism that well. I took it as trying to help. And
I think that's probably one of the biggest factors why you were able to improve so much in a short span of time as compared to possibly somebody else, because of the attitude that you have. And that toughness definitely, I think, helps in the learning process, because you're able to absorb the critiques and the tips much faster. Whereas if you're sitting there for a week stewing and feeling like shit, you know, you're not going to really be improving at that time. Obviously, it's more like you're recovering, because I've seen students get crushed by his critiques in class, you know, and then now they're scared to go back up and present the scene after that for a while, you know, if ever.
Yeah. No, I guess, that's the thing. It's kind of, it's strange. It's strange to me, actually, because you're like going there to like learn. But I think there's probably some aspect of people who are thinking they're going to class not to learn to get better, but going to class to be discovered or something like this. Or maybe Aaron will put you in the next Will Smith movie. I think maybe that's just some like underlying thought that, you know, probably affects people some kind of way. But yeah, who knows why dive deep into psychology and you're like upbringing, like why some people can take some criticism and some can't. I definitely think having an athletic background and having played sports kind of prepares you in that way, at least, and that you don't take criticism, because sports, you're used to, like, you know, criticism, getting yelled at by coaches. You win, you lose,
right?
Like, just deal with it. You don't take
and
it. So I've coached people since then. I've like coached people who are athletes, and I have noticed that kind of through line, at least. Like somebody who's played sports at any level tends to take criticism better because
you're used to it.
Yeah.
And you're constantly striving to get better. And I was talking to another actor friend who actually had on the podcast. He was a martial artist. So he actually said something that kind of threw me off, but he was saying, like, when people look for their marks, that's one of my pet peeves, when an actor walks up and you can see them looking for their mark, right? Yeah. But he was saying the athletic background helps him with his peripheral vision, and he doesn't have to look anywhere for his marks. And also for the lighting, you know, he knows exactly where to stand instinctually, almost, again, using his peripheral vision, you know. So having an athletic background helps in a lot of ways, not just the ways that you mentioned, you know. And then the obvious thing, the physical fitness part of it, you know, for the most part, you have to be fit, you know what I mean? Because actors are called to set earlier than anybody else, 5 a.m. You don't get a lot of rest. You know, your eating schedule is choppy, things like that. So I think the fitness is something that's overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah. You know, a lot of stuff's just good for life in general. You know?
Yeah, for sure. So how do you keep in shape? You know, how do you keep in shape? Do you have a gym membership or what do you do?
I got a gym. I work out. I try to work out every day. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Lucky enough, this whole quarantine, a friend of mine actually owns a gym. The gym was closed, but I had access to a gym for the whole quarantine. So
Wow, that's cool.
I was here, so I was lucky. Yeah.
That's cool. So
Stay, I try to stay active. Not nothing too crazy, but I try to
keep in shape.
every day. Yeah. Not like kill myself, go crazy hard, but
You're not trying to become The Rock or anything like that. Just right.
nah, no, so.
Dwayne Johnson.
Not quite.
All right. So the next thing I want to ask you is you transitioned from, I think this was unplanned as well, but you're an acting coach now. You do private sessions. So can you talk about how that transition happened?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is all like a really slow process. Like once I discovered acting, you can work at it. I mean, I think because I didn't come, I don't know, whatever reason, like I wasn't as rushed with it because I didn't have the same dreams of being an actor. I didn't come in with that. I kind of just fell in love more with the craft itself. I'm not really a big, I was never really a big TV movie guy. I watch movies and TV, but like even now, like in general, I'd rather watch like some sports or a documentary. So I just kind of like lost myself in the craft, just like obsessed with that and started reading everything I could get my hands on when it comes to acting, really just psychology in general, philosophy, what can you, just spend a lot of time just contemplating it. And I mean, every day of my life was just like, how do I get better? How do I get better? And that's just kind of my personality, my obsessive personality. So I basically just, for 2 years, I was just in acting class every day, working on scenes, doing stuff, and really had no idea how I was even getting, I didn't have an agent or anything. I'd done a couple commercials, but commercial was not the same as theatrical. So yeah, it took a couple years before I could finally even get an audition. And even after I could get a couple auditions here and there, I still couldn't get an agent. And I had to like lie my way into this business. Actually, so before I started coaching, one of my first roles, I like just like hustling here and there. I figured out a way how to get on breakdowns, which is
the Actors Access.
Like not Actors Access, but where agents can submit actors for roles.
Right.
And I figured out a way, like I just became a manager. I was just like, I know I'm fucking good. I know I can do this. And I pulled some strings and I basically became a fake manager just so I can manage myself. Not okay to do. But
that's the first. I've heard a lot, but that's the first that I've heard of that.
No, I had a fake management company and I started submitting myself for roles, small like one-liners because I'm an agent no one had heard of, but I had my like pictures up there, and then one came in for they needed an English accent for Castle. It was a show on ABC at the time, and I submitted, said he's British, and the little notes, and then I got called in, and I was like, yeah, I remember I was like, oh shit, I gotta tell them I'm British now. I knew I could do an English accent, so because I had like been practicing that shit for like 2 years already, just because it was fun. And so I went in and I had my story ready to go. I was just gonna tell them that I was British, but then I was like, what? If I get hired, they're gonna need me my paperwork. So I was like, okay. If they ask me, I was actually born here. It's like, and sure enough, when I went in, they asked me, so like, do you have your green card? I was like, no, I actually have my citizenship. I was actually born here, but I moved back to the UK when I was a year old. I had like the whole thing. Yeah. So I ended up getting that. I ended up booking that role and then like worked for like a week on set. And I was like, oh shit, I got to keep this lie up. So kept the lie going all week, pretending to be English. So that was kind of like how I first got in. It was actually my second credit, but I had no agent. So from there, like I parlayed that into, and around that time is when I somewhat started coaching. So I started coaching because in class, people would come to me and ask for help. And then like give pretty good advice on a scene here and there. And then I helped a friend, with an audition, and they would book. And then they referred me to somebody else, and I helped somebody else. And that's actually how I got my first agent. Was after I got that role. A friend of mine was auditioning for Southland, and I coached her for that. She got it. And then coincidentally, one of the assistants at her agency, who would later become an agent, was still kind of like dabbling in acting. And my friend invited me over when she was auditioning for, coincidentally, Southland. And I coached her, She called me over to coach, but apparently my friend hadn't told the agent who was auditioning as an actor, complicated story, that I was there to coach. But I just walked in thinking she already knew. And I just started like talking, like, do it like, kind of look at it like this, and gave her some notes. Long story short, she ended up booking. And after that, she looked at my reel, because I had put together a reel and all that. And she's like, "You're fucking dope. Can I represent you?" And I was like, "Yes," absolutely. And then the first thing she auditioned, she got me was coincidentally for Southland. And I got it. So it was just a weird, so it was kind of through coaching that I actually got my way in. And it wasn't officially coaching. It was just helping people here and there, and
right,
word of mouth. And then I started, talking to Aaron. I was like, "Oh, can I help this person book? And then this person." He's like, "Really? That's great." And then he asked me, "Do I want to coach?" And I was like, I never really thought of it. And he was like, "Well, I can't, always work with everybody," because he's got people calling him all the time. He's like, "When I can't do something, I'll just send people your way." So he kind of put the stamp of approval on me, like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And, if I didn't have that, that was a credential in itself. From there, like, people that he didn't want to work with or didn't have time, he hooked me up with a production company that would send me people. And it kind of just word of mouth grew from there. I'd help people. And a lot of the time, the people I helped started booking and auditioning well, and it worked out. It seemed like I had a good touch when it came to that. And also I've been, by this point, like 4 years of just obsessing over the craft and what's going on, and not really thinking about anything other than that. So I think that kind of mindset helped me, because I'm just like so focused on that and not worried about all the other shit, that can stress us out as actors. And yeah, so and from there, just that's how I became. It was Aaron put that stamp of approval on me, and just word of mouth. I coach one person, I say, "Hey, you can work with this guy." And then they're like, "Can we pay you?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah." And I start getting paid for it, and went from there. And so I'm still doing that, still doing that.
Doing private sessions, coaching.
Yeah, just private sessions. I taught a class one time. It's not for me. I don't really want to teach a class.
You don't want to do the group thing. You'd rather keep it one-on-one.
Yeah, I really enjoy just talking about it, but like the teaching a class is a different skill set. You're an entertainer. You're up there. It's a different skill set. I don't know. I don't enjoy it as much. I just like talking with one person and like, hey, breaking it down. I get in a zone when I'm doing that, and I just love it.
It makes sense. Do you think it's a necessary evil at a certain point? If you wanted to transition full-time into coaching, do you think you would have to at least do a class somewhere to keep the privates going? Or what do you think? It depends.
Maybe. I know a lot of people told me I should teach a class, and
that'll keep like the one-on-ones coming constantly, right?
If I want to, again, I've never pursued coaching. It's just been something that kind of came my way, and I'm not going to turn it down.
Yeah.
But when I started doing a little bit more, I started getting more coaching from people that I found it less enjoyable. I really enjoy coaching people that are my friends and that really care about the craft.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy it. But when it's just like random people calling or getting sent to me because their agents or managers send them to me, it's not the same. So I haven't pursued it because I don't love that part of it as much. But it's worked out. I have like a small group of people that I coach, and I do like and I do on-set and stuff now too. So I'm good just doing private coaching and on-set, and not putting it out there like that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how we met actually. I was in the class, I was doing scenes, and you approached me and you were, giving me confidence in what I was doing, complimenting what I was doing good, maybe giving me tips here and there and what I could do better. But that's how you and I met.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even remember what, I think you did a monologue or something, but you had something in there. Like you just were like passionate and real and really interested, and you took it. I could just tell immediately that you took it seriously. And you kind of like connect on that when you see someone else who takes that so seriously and is passionate about it. It's just like apparent immediately. I was like, fuck, this guy's fucking good.
Yeah, thank you, man. I did a scene. It wasn't a monologue, actually. It was a scene with Leah Monette. I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah.
And it was a prison scene. She was playing like the lawyer, and I was the prisoner.
Right.
And it wasn't hard for me to get into character.
You got that.
Yeah.
Prisoner thing. Maybe that's what I saw. Like I get a lot of that intimidating stuff too.
Yeah. For sure. I think,
and be aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we have a lot of similarities. We both played sports. We both spent some time on the East Coast a little bit. You said you spent some time on the East Coast, and we're both obsessive. So I think, like you said, you saw that in me. But for sure, yeah. When I hook onto something, I go like full. I dive in full steam. So I think that's what you saw in me. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at the time, your agent was her name Fatma or Fatima? I forget her name. The agent from Abrams, right?
Yeah, Fatmata.
All right, sorry, it's Fatmata. And you actually referred me to her as well.
I did.
You referred me to her, so thank you again for that.
I was doing her a favor. I ain't gonna talk about you. Yeah.
It didn't pan out with me between her and I at the time. She had I guess she had a roster filled, but she was definitely interested in stuff like that. But I actually just signed with Courtney Peldon at Aqua yesterday. So I have a new theatrical agent.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that. So I might be hitting you up some more for some coaching tips. I just hit you up the other day. I was playing Dr. Henry Lee, who's that older Chinese gentleman with the accent who was on the OJ trial. He's like a forensics expert.
Yeah.
So, I hit you up about how do you train to play somebody who's real?
Right.
And you gave me some good tips. Can you talk about a little of those tips? Because it's different from just conventional acting when you're playing a real person.
Yeah. Again, all the stuff I think would differ from person to person. So I don't try to get too dogmatic in an approach. Like, this is how you act. This is how you do it, because it's art. It's not like do this step and then this step and build a backstory and there you got it. But yeah, my sense of it was just, I think you asked, you just like start with imitation if you're playing a real person. And I was saying that I think that is a good place to start, because I think, and the reason for that, I mean, just in life in general, that's how our brains work. Even like the language that we speak, the accent that we speak with, what is it? You're just imitating other people. So imitation is natural as a human. So that's why I kind of come from that. So yeah, imitate. But that's just the first step. You don't want just a hollow caricature of something. But I did say, yeah, start with imitation. And I even think I said like you can even do a caricature of the character you're doing, because you're just kind of loosening up and trying to find little things in it. So you're not gonna be able to just imitate it right away and be good. It's just gonna be like a hollow imitation. And that's how you have to start,
Right.
So yeah, I said, start with imitation, even exaggerate. And from there, you can also start, just researching the actual character, getting an understanding of where they're coming from. You also want to figure out the internal side of things. I know some people talk, is it inside out acting or outside in? Do you do that? I don't know. I think it depends on the person, but I do think that kind of both these things are true. If you get the physicality of somebody and their intonation and all these things that can just come from straight imitation, it might trigger something like, oh, okay, I feel this way, and you'll have some insight into them. At the same time, you can't just do that. You can't just do imitation, because that's going to come off as phony. There's no substance inside it. So you gotta build both ways. And I don't think it's one first, one way or the other. You just get in where you can, hook in where you can. And that's going to be different for each person, depending on how your brain works. That's going to be different for each character. And if you're playing a real person, there's going to be some, just necessary imitation, because you're trying to pick up their mannerisms in a way that you might not have to in other characters, where you're just kind of painting your own picture, and however it comes out is how it comes out. So yeah, that was what I said. That was the start, kind of the way in.
That gives me some insight into your coaching process. So I can see, like, you're going to actually coach somebody as an individual. You're not just going to have one playbook that you'll just give to every single person. You're going to cater your coaching depending on their personality, probably their technique, their level, and all of these things. And to top it off, on the character that they're playing or the person that they're playing also, is a variable as well.
There's so many variables, and there's no one right way to do it, and you just kind of got to figure it out. Like, that way might work for one character, and then you try it again, and it's like, this shit doesn't fucking work for this. So absolutely. It depends on the individual. It depends on the day. Also, you're trying to communicate with words that are very imprecise. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, we're always interpreting what we hear from somebody in our own way, and there's so many factors. You're just kind of like trying different things. So that's how, when I'm coaching, I'll say, try this, and that won't work.
Yeah,
that's a good thing about private coaching, is I can for me personally, I don't have to get it right. I can be like, okay, do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, that didn't work. And then I'll just keep on trying until you hit on something. And it's definitely an individual, personal thing, depending on so many things. And the most important thing is that it comes from you, not understanding what somebody else said. It has to make 100% sense to you, as opposed to, oh, this is how this great actor did it, so that's what I'm going to do. It's like, no, it's got to really feel like it's coming from you.
So basically, you are the character. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I think that's kind of the direction you were heading with what you were saying.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Oh, there's so many. We could spend 15 hours on this. But I'm just which way to go? Yes. Yeah. I mean,
well, let's go this way. A lot of the times people say, okay, the imitation thing. So along those lines, let's just say you are the character. You're not going outside of yourself and becoming somebody else or somebody different. So can you elaborate, kind of heading in that direction?
Okay. I mean, it's just kind of, it's like a framing thing, right? I'm going to stay away from the imitation thing, because that's a very unique, most of the characters you do are not going to be a real defined person. And even the character you're just talking about, I don't know how important it would actually be to just be exactly like that guy if they're not well known. You know what I mean?
So you don't even consider that to be very important, to get the closest recreation of that. Let's say Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali. It's less important for you to copy him than it is to just embody that nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing impressions, that's its own thing, and that's fucking crazy. That's its own separate talent. You see these great impressionists, which I've watched a bunch of them, and it's that's its own unique talent. What are they? those great impressions. Frank Caliendo, for example, have you seen him doing John Madden? Like, that's just its own category of like, his impressions are gonna be better than any impression some great actor is gonna do. But that's a different thing. How that's gonna be a different thing if you're talking about for the course of a whole film or TV series. We just want to believe the actual person. I'm curious, how close was Denzel Washington to Malcolm X? Because when I think of Malcolm X, I'm actually thinking of Denzel Washington now. Like, right?
Yeah.
Denzel Washington's charisma is like insane. I mean, Denzel does everything on an elite level. But yeah, I think the more well-known the character is, you're definitely going to need to be closer to that. You know, otherwise people are like, I don't believe this at all.
So is it safe to say? Is it safe to say somebody like Denzel was more concerned with the story being told than with getting the mannerisms and the physicality close to the real Malcolm X? Is that safe to say?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Denzel that.
As far as in your opinion for approach, because that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting from you.
For approach to playing a real person.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know that there's a definitive answer. I do think that just an empty impression is going to be less. It's not going to be as fun to watch. You know, if there's nothing. You know, it doesn't matter. You can do a great impression if there's nothing inside. You know, no like full character there. It's not going to hold up. You know, it'll hold up in a comedic sense for a few minutes, but if you're going to watch a whole film, there's got to be a full character there.
There has to be a balance there. I think that's what you're getting at. There has to
be a balance. There has to be a balance. But the more you nail me down, I'd say, having a full real character there, regardless of how exact it is, you know, would be much more important. Because people's experience of what they watch is never as exact, you know, as you might think. What's being communicated when we're watching film is the feeling that you get from it, rather than like actually analyzing, you know, every moment and this and that. Somebody, you know, and in real life too, you've probably been in a situation where someone says, "Why are you yelling at me?" And it's like, you weren't even yelling, but the intention behind that felt so violent and extreme that somebody might remember that as yelling. So people's recollections of what they actually saw or experienced might not be what actually happened. I had that experience. I'm playing a role where I was like, I had a scene with a kid, and I remember there was a review on it where they're like, I mean, it was a positive review, but they mentioned the scene where I was screaming at my child in this film. And in actuality, if you go back and look at it, I wasn't screaming at him. I was very quiet. I was being somewhat abusive, you know what I mean? But I was saying, hey, we're not going to do this. You're not going to. And I was very calm. But the experience of it for the person who wrote about it was he was screaming at him, which wasn't totally inaccurate.
Yeah.
So that's a roundabout way of saying that, yeah, I think what's being communicated internally is more important than the external. The external is just kind of impressive sometimes on the outside, but not what's going to carry a story all the way through.
And what lends more credence to what you're saying is that, you know, obviously we have words to communicate, but most of the communication is nonverbal. It's done through body language, give and take. So that's probably what the person who thought you were screaming, they were just feeling what you were doing, really. It wasn't the volume of your tone or anything like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best, going back to what you kind of like brought this on, you're saying Aaron's things, like you are the character, just all this added stuff where actors want to be impressive and play something totally different from themselves because that's kind of like catchy. But at the end of the day, like all that other stuff can get in the way, you know, just be a real person up there and be as relaxed, and who you are will show through, and either you're right for it or you're not if you're auditioning. You know, it's much more important to be truthful in that moment that you're playing than any kind of external impression, this and that. Like that's always going to be more interesting to watch. It happens all the time when I've, you know, worked with actors, seen auditions, seen on set takes. And I'm sure this has happened to you as well. Is there'll be the take where you mess up and forget the line, and that's just the best moment because it might be the only real moment. You know, when you forget your line, all of a sudden you can't fake it anymore. You just got a real moment there. So you want to act like that all the time.
You get a genuine reaction, a genuine moment.
Yeah, I think more than what you're saying. I think what we don't realize, I think, as actors sometimes is I'm dedicated my life to acting. You know, I'm so like into the craft, but most people don't know what good acting is. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know what good acting is? The person casting this, do they know what good acting is? I know when I started with acting, like, I remember actually having this question, like, how do I know who's a good actor? I know who I like watching, but that's kind of like a generic thing. I can't say that they're a better actor than this person. I just like that person more. And I think what we forget as actors is, because we're so caught up in like wanting to be good at what we do, is that when you're getting cast, they're just casting the person that they see, not how you did the scene, not all this work that you did, not what fucking backstory and research you did. And it doesn't matter. They're just like, you know, if you've ever been on the casting side of things, which I've got a chance to do as well, somebody walks in and before they even start, they're saying like, that's the guy. And then they start doing some fake acting. You're like, okay, never mind, that was terrible. But it's never like, that's not the guy. And then they start doing some amazing acting and you're like, that's it. It's like you're casting the personality in the person, not their ability to act.
It depends what they're looking for.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah. But I mean, ideally you want good actors, right? But
I mean, we could go on and on about this, but if you're casting a show like Glee, let's say, and I hate to pick on Glee because I always do, but let's say Glee, for example, you're not looking for Daniel Day-Lewis to play the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it depends what you're looking for. Or a WB show like Charmed. I pick on Charmed too. I don't know why, but Charmed. That's different from something that, let's say, possibly Denzel Washington is a candidate for. So there's variables, right? I mean,
yeah. But I mean, everybody wants good acting. It's just kind of like.
But do they? Let's say a Disney show, for example. You can't even call that acting.
I mean,
you know, and again, not to pick on them. It's just a particular thing. It's more entertainment. It's whatever. I don't even know what performance. I don't know what to call it, but it's not acting.
It's all entertainment and performance at the end of the day. It's just, I believe that good acting will always, truthful acting will always make whatever, if all things being equal, if you have good acting, it's going to make your show, no matter how trash it goes, it'll be better with good acting. But that's just not like.
You're a sane and rational person. Not everybody in this town is. You see what I'm saying? You make sense, but not everybody else does. I don't know. It's just.
Well, you got to think, like, who the hell comes to LA to want to like act? You know how delusional you have to be? Like,
yeah, that's true too.
Like you have to have like a certain amount of delusion to think you can, like, the odds are stacked against you. It's probably not going to work out, even if you're really good. Like, you're not going to get cast in some shit because you're really good. You're going to get cast in some shit because you happen to look right and you happen to be likable. And then if you're really good, it'll actually make whatever you get cast in better, and then your career can go from there. But nobody just I don't think people just get cast in their first things because they were a great actor, you know?
Yeah.
Because they fit, you know, they fit whatever you're looking for. But yeah, so but you know, you got to be delusional to start a restaurant or be any kind of entrepreneur. It's the same thing. Like 95% of restaurants fail. I don't think anyone goes into starting a restaurant thinking like, I have a 5% chance of this working out. You're like, no, I've got really good food. This is a great idea. And you have to be a little bit delusional to accomplish anything, because, you know, if you play the odds and you're just really smart about it, it's like, it's not a good idea. Don't start a restaurant. Don't try to act, you know, maybe just go to school and, you know, be a dentist. Be a, you know, there's a pathway to that, you know, doctor, you go to school, you get the grade, you'll get a job.
Yep.
Everything else, it's probably a terrible idea.
It's one of the things about acting. It's one of the few careers you don't need a certificate. You don't need a degree.
Right.
If you say you're an actor, I guess you're an actor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And it helps to be a little bit crazy and a little bit delusional. And how do you balance that? Some people are like, okay, I know I'm a little bit delusional, but I'm just fucking going for it. And other people have no idea what they're getting into, you know?
I definitely fall into that category. You know what I mean? I had no idea. I booked my first audition in New York for a movie. Yeah. So after that, I was thinking, wow, this stupid acting bullshit is so easy. I can make money doing this. And I came to LA, and 10 years later, I'm still struggling, right? You know?
At a certain point, you're just stuck. Like, I mean, I started the same thing. Like, this is easy. Just go audition, get a commercial, get a bunch of money. Yeah. Same exact thing. It just took some like luck. See, it was just complete luck. You got in, probably, you know.
But I respect the path you're on, whether it's acting or a different career. You're loyal to the game. Basically, you have a passion for the craft.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you latch onto, and that's what you hold dear, and that's what you're doing. So you're basically like, you're a true professional, for lack of a better word. You're into the craft. It doesn't mean you're gonna be booked on a movie necessarily, even though you probably deserve it more than someone else may. Maybe there's somebody else who wants to be famous, or who wants to be rich, or has delusion, you know, other selfish delusions.
Yeah.
They might even book it. So it's not always fair, but at the same time,
not fair at all.
It's not fair, but you know,
I get some. I want all those things. I want to be rich, and you know, I want everything that comes with that. Like, let's be honest. I'm not like, you know, don't not want that. I'm not like too good for that. I just it gives me comfort personally to be able to just like actually really enjoy the craft and lock in on that, so I can just spend hours studying, reading up on psychology and all this stuff, not because it's going to lead me somewhere, but just because I find it really interesting.
You're passionate about it.
Yeah, lock in on that, and you know, that, you know, keeps me somewhat sane rather than just kind of like flipping out and going crazy because I'm not getting a shot, I'm not getting a chance to do what I can do.
And that's real, and that's how the Daniel Day-Lewises and the Denzels are made. They're born from that passion and that realness.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, you got the Glee actors. You know what I mean?
Oh, you gotta pick on Glee.
Pick on Glee. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, I think what messes up a lot of us is like, we see out there, you see so many actors doing well, and I don't know about you, but I can assume that you see a lot of actors out there doing well. I know I feel this way. And I'm like, no, I'm so much better than that fucking person. Like, just objectively, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you get some shit, or I get some shit, like this, it's not fucking fair. It's not fair. And you're gonna get some shit because you're lucky. And I think what fucks with people's minds is seeing all the people doing well who aren't as talented as you. But you could also just flip it around and realize that, do you know how many more people that there are that are way more talented than you or me that never had a fucking opportunity to even like get into this industry? So for all the shit we talk about wanting it to be fair, and I just wish like it was more based on merit. It's like, do you really want that? Because if it's just based on merit, then only the best person in the world would get the role.
Right.
And there might be like one role we could all do, and it'd be like spread out, and you couldn't really have a career.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's
I mean, obviously, you've given all of this a lot of thought. You're a thoughtful person, and this is a really strong perspective you're giving right now, especially to aspiring actors. And it's really just about being even keeled and balanced about things, not too high and not too low. And I think that's
yeah, definitely for your own sanity.
it's a
Yeah,
really good approach that you have.
and focus on the craft, not just because that will make you a better actor, but I think it just keeps you more sane. Because otherwise, you're just like, I don't know, trying a bunch of random shit, and then you'll finally get something and think it's because you burned some sage in the right place at the right time. I don't know, all this, it's the meal you had, all these superstitions, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'd have just, stuck around and got lucky eventually.
These days, people are sacrificing chickens and smearing the blood on their forehead and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They'll do anything to try to get on.
Right, absolutely.
You know, I've
Yeah.
had offers, believe me. I've had offers, but
yeah,
going back to the sports thing, it's like you're saying, yeah, for sure. It's not about talent. It's not about talent, because how many times have you heard, oh, this dude, I'll crack his ass in basketball. I'll crack his ass. He's not even good, and he's in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy, this street ball legend has so much more talent than Matt Barnes or whoever, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're right. They're right about that. But it's not about talent. Like you were saying, it's not about only talent. Talent is probably the least important thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it depends on which area you're in. I think if we're talking about sports, I think one of the great things about sports is, more than any other part of life, sports is about talent. Sure, there's politics, and not the best basketball players are in the NBA necessarily, but you can't really. Somebody's in the NBA, they can fucking play basketball. Like, there's no way around it. You don't just like know the right person and get put on the team. And I think that's the beauty of athletics, and why we're drawn to athletics. It's like, if you can run fast, you win the race. Doesn't matter who you know, what ethnicity you are, any of these things. If you run faster, you win the race.
But you can't just have that talent. You have to, for years, have a very disciplined regimen. You have to have proper nutrition. You have to be in line with the proper channels, such as coaching, the right people to put you in the right races. And basketball is no different. As a kid, you have to be in the right school, pretty much. You have to have the right coach who has the right connections to put you on the right AAU team, who plays against the certain players that'll get you exposure. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And the Matt Barnes of this world, they may not have been the most talented or the best shooters, but they went through these steps. They did the discipline, the steps that they needed to get to where they are. And the street guys, they may have had a lot more talent, but they probably spent more time on the street.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
And I don't think that's different from any other career, including acting. So I think along with the talent, you have to take the right steps and align yourself and put yourself in the best position. Right. And that includes being in the right acting class. That includes reading the right books. That includes the staying in shape. And that includes getting the right agent. That includes whether you're going to join SAG or not. It's a host of different variables. It's definitely not just talent.
Right.
So I think the people who understand that and build these blocks to the best of their ability, it maximizes their chances. Whereas instead of having 1 or 2 lottery tickets, they bought themselves 2 dozen.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And yeah, 100%, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it's there's a lot of chance involved in life in general. You have the humility to realize, like, the human thing thinks you got the things you got because the hard work you put in and the talent you have. And I mean, this is my philosophy, is I think a lot more of life is just pure luck and chance than we are comfortable admitting, But all that being said, yeah, you can put yourself in position to have better odds. You can do everything right and stay long. And you know what? You stick around long enough, you're going to get your shot. And then if you've been working hard and you're good, you're going to be able to take advantage of it. But you have to but you're not going to get that shot because of all the work that you put in. You're going to get that shot because you got fucking lucky eventually because you stuck around, and you're taking advantage of it because of all the work that you put in. But yeah, at the same time, you can do all those things and you might not actually get lucky, you know? For all the stories we see of somebody here's some discouraging thought from all the people that we see that's stuck in this game, this acting game for years and years and years, but then they finally got their break and they didn't quit because there's nothing else they could do, but they finally got that break and took advantage of it. And it's like, that's what we latch on to. But there might be 5 other people or 10 other people or 20 other people who all these years and years, they stuck around, they stuck with it, they couldn't do anything else. And yeah, that shot never came.
Yeah.
Just realistically. So
It's
but that being said, you're absolutely right. You do everything that's in your control, you know, and once you realize how much is not in your control, you don't freak out as much about everything. And one of the things you can control is your dedication to the craft and how hard you work and just, you know, try to get better. So the longer it takes you to get your shot, the better you'll be when that shot comes around. You know, that's the way I look at it.
And I have a personal testimony that lends credence to that. Years ago, they have showcases where there's like a group of, let's say, 5 to 10 agents. If you're looking for an agent, right?
Yeah.
And you perform a scene, you pay and you perform a scene in front of them with the hopes that one of them will be interested in signing you, right? They're not necessarily there to sign people. They're there to pay their light bill for the most part. Yeah. But once in a while, they will sign somebody if they are interested. Absolutely. So I did that probably, I would say 7 years ago, I think 6 or 7 years ago. And it was for Aqua Talent, Courtney Peldon, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, like a guy who knew nothing and just misguided bravado, I did the Glengarry Glen Ross scene with Al Pacino. And that was just stupid in and of itself. Why would you do a scene that one of the best actors of all time did? It just shows you how misguided I was. But anyway, I did it. And I swore she was going to call me 5 minutes later, right? You know, it's so stupid, but
yeah.
And years later, I just told you that I signed with her yesterday.
Yeah.
Basically, I met an actor who was signed to her, right? And then he was looking for a manager. So I said, oh, cool. I'll introduce you to my manager. Can you introduce me to her or send a referral? And he said, sure, no problem. And then I talked to my manager. I said, oh, yeah, this guy's going to refer me to Courtney. And then my manager was like, oh, she's cool. Yeah, I know her, blah, 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 blah. He made it sound like they were buddy, right? And then to top it off, I wanted to solidify my options and my chances. So I also joined Actors Access Talent Link, which is a service that says that you're looking for representation or that you're open to representation.
Yeah. So
I had those 3 steps lined up. So I referred the actor to my manager who was interested in signing him. So that worked. And then he said he sent my materials to Courtney at Aqua Talent. And then second, my manager said, I'm going to go ahead and talk to her. So expect to hear from her soon. So I said, oh, cool. I have the referral and I have my manager talking to her. And then I'll just, for good measure, I joined the Actors Access Talent Link saying that I'm looking for a rep, right? And I didn't hear nothing for a month from anybody. I honestly don't know if that guy even sent my stuff to her. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I doubt it. To be honest, maybe I'm cynical, but I don't think he did, right? Second of all, I don't hear from my manager for a month. Third of all, I didn't get any. I got one inquiry from a rep through Actors Access.
Okay.
And it was an unknown agency. You know what I mean? So I didn't respond to them. And then it said, oh, your month is up for the talent link. It's over. What do you want to do? I said, let's do it one more month. Right. So I did it one more month. Next thing you know, I get an email from Courtney at Aqua Talent. Right. Also, her mom, who's also an agent for Caviar Talent Group, Wendy Peldon, right? And from other agencies, like decent agencies, like, oh, okay, cool. So I set up a meeting myself with Courtney yesterday, and then everything went well or whatever. And then we decided to work together. right? So even after going through this thing with this actor, the referral, my manager, and then I asked her, do you know my manager, Brandon? He said he knows you. And she was like, huh? She didn't even know who he was, right?
Yeah.
So I wound up basically, I did it and I got it done. I got it done.
That's that's crazy that it came back and was ended up being Courtney and I. But that's crazy how that
It's just interesting. I don't even remember why I started saying this, but basically that's
I think it's about you're increasing your odds. You're doing what you got to do. You put stuff out there.
right.
You don't know what's going to work out.
So I was going to say, yeah, this is not for the meek. And that leads me back to what you did earlier when you booked, one of your major credits, which was, you basically managed yourself. You hacked into the system, for lack of a better word, and you saw the breakdown. So that's something to consider. You have to be aggressive. This is not for the meek.
And I wouldn't recommend doing that. That just happened at that time.
Right.
To work, because everybody's story is different. And the
right.
point that you just get in where like your first thing was just, well, you said just some random open call for a movie. And like, that's not actually the way to get in either. If that was your plan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If somebody's like, how'd Billy do it? Okay, well, I'll just go to this and be one of thousands of people to audition, and then I'm in. It's like, no, that's not a good plan either. It just happened. That worked for you. So yeah, you just got to try a bunch of different shit and figure it out yourself. And understand that it's not set up to have a way in. It's actually impossible to get in. But it's not. But you just got to figure out, and it's just that you can't necessarily follow what anyone else did. You got to figure it out yourself. You can look at what other people did as kind of, encouragement that like, hey, the odds, these hopeless odds are the same for everybody, or most people.
And everybody's journey and everybody's entry is unique to them.
Right. And it's just, it's just set up to be, supposed to break the rules to get in. You got to do something different, because how do you get in this industry? You got to audition. Well, how do you audition? You got to have an agent. Well, how do you get an agent? You got to have credits. Well, how do you get credits? You got to audition. It's like a circular thing. Like, wait, but how do I get an agent if I don't have credits? Well, you got to audition.
You have to be in the union. How do you get in the union? I need credits. Right? It just goes on and on and on and
all
on.
the shit is like, yeah, no, there's not a way, but there is. You just,
You have to take it. You have to take your opportunity. Nobody's gonna bring it to you on a silver platter. Obviously, I mean, everybody knows that.
And my personal thing, my thought is if you just concentrate on the craft, like there's not something to do I know they say you should do something every day for your career, but I don't think there's always something to do. Like you're gonna like submit to an agency if you're like trying to get in every day. Like, no, just work on your craft every day. Just get really fucking good. And when you get really good, that increases your odds. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think coming in, when you came to acting class and did a scene, I don't know if you came there to be seen by somebody who would refer you and that would start your whole career. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you just come there and you're concentrated on being good. And it just happened that like, for example, I saw you and I was like, oh, maybe I can set you with this agent. And that, it's not a plan. It kind of worked out because you're dedicated to the craft and I recognize that. And guess what? It still didn't work out. You know what I mean? But it, is some encouragement, but you don't get that without concentrating on the craft. So I always go back to like, if nothing else, just do the fucking work and let the chips fall where they may. And over time, if you're like dedicated and focused on the craft and all of that, you got much better odds. And eventually something's going to break in your favor. You're like just dedicated and doing the work and bringing, passion and, to everything that you do.
And eventually that'll just attract, for lack of a better word, it'll attract the work that's appropriate to you. You know what I mean? You'll be offered much better material and better work and better projects because your level of acting is that much higher.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, the good acting does come into play at some point.
Yeah.
It's, like I just, yeah, it's important. You're not gonna have a great movie without great acting from the lead.
Yeah.
You
You're
know,
not going to trick anybody into,
yeah,
getting a good part. You actually have to have the goods. So you're really betting on yourself, even if there's nothing external necessarily reinforcing that at the moment. You're
yeah,
still betting on yourself.
absolutely, yeah.
So let me ask you, you went to Ghana recently, and I really wanted to talk to you about that. Like the traveling is another thing because it's life experience, and we've all heard how life experience informs your acting.
Absolutely.
So I know that's part of your plan and regimen, and even that is probably in your mind is helping your acting or informing your acting. So how did that come about as far as Ghana is concerned?
It was just um, when things shut down. Um, it was kind of a unique situation for all of us in the world, where everything is shut down, and I, yeah, it wasn't anything other than like there's nothing going on. There was like absolutely nothing going on. Then like there started being auditions and stuff, but there's all self tapes. So I was like, I don't actually um have to be here. And that was kind of, I'm used to like having to be here. I actually probably don't, but I fall into that thing of like I don't want to miss anything. So I always gotta be here, afraid to leave town. And I was just like, it wasn't anything other than well, I don't know that I did it for my acting, but I do think it helps. But yeah, it was just own experience. Shit, I've never been to Africa. I've traveled a bunch. I love to travel, and I do think it's good for the mind to come in and see different cultures and get a whole different perspective. So yeah, the reason for that was just to be fucking fun, like maybe get the hell out of here. And when we got a chance to just like take off and do some shit, so I just went for it.
Did
Yeah.
somebody tell you how great it is? Like, how did you choose Ghana out of Africa? There's a lot of countries, different countries.
Yeah, I just heard that it was great. I'd never been to Africa. Had a friend out there, and
So you have a friend out there.
yeah, I was,
Okay.
I've got, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
um, got friends from all over, and got connected, and just decided to just like fucking go for it. Ghana is really safe. Number one, so that kind of that factored in. They happened to be open. Not everywhere was open to travel to. Um, Man, it was just to do some different shit and just go for it. And I think that's kind of one where, yeah, I mean, it just happened to be the thing that worked out. I could get there. It was open, not too expensive, and I was like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I just went for it. And
Did you have a plan as far as how long you were going to stay?
no, no,
Okay. It
no.
seemed like you didn't want to come back.
No, I didn't. I actually overstayed my visa. I didn't even realize it. My visa was good for 60 days. I thought it was 90 days.
Okay.
Overstayed. I got to the airport. They're like, you overstayed your visa. I was like, oh shit, my bad. I thought it was 60 days. And I come back to the back office. I'm like, oh fuck. What I get myself into? That'll be $20. I was like, here you go. the 100 CDs. Got the CDs really is what it was. I was like, no, they said 80 CDs. I only had 100 on me. I was like, here's 100. Okay, here you go. So got through that.
That was at their airport.
Yeah, yeah.
So once you got over here, it was all good. You're done. That's it.
Yeah, it was good. No, I do think on that note, though, you talk about traveling. I do think traveling is great as an actor, because it forces you to just, when you travel and you see a culture that is just looking at things differently, you're just forced to understand like stuff you don't even think about, like the way we do things every day. You probably don't think every day like why are eggs for breakfast? Something like that, something as simple as that. It's just eggs are breakfast food. Are they? Like what? That's just something that was conditioning that you take as like, oh, that's what it is. And when you travel, you just see that in all sorts of different areas. And I do think that helps with acting. I know for me personally, outside of that, just growing up where I grew up, became conscious very early because I grew up in a very like cultural, ethnic, place. So I grew up with not a lot, and I was going from like, around the white kids to a predominantly black school. And then you got the rich folks and the poor people. And like, because I moved around so much, I remember just like early on being very conscious, more so than other people, like, oh, this is, people here act differently than this. And oh, this is a different way of talking. These people speak differently. Oh, and there's a different sense of humor and all that. So just navigating and kind of learning the code switch in different environments was probably like my first introduction to acting without even realizing.
Right. Yeah.
People that grow up having a code switch or, speak a different way, if your family culture is different from the culture that's out there that you're hanging around every day, that you become more, so the same thing. I think it's good for your mind. It's good as an actor. So then you're like much more agile when it comes to like jumping into a different perspective because you practiced it.
That's a good point. And in this country, I mean, this is a great country, obviously.
Yeah.
It's great to live here and stuff like that. But I think we get spoiled. We have all these different cultures here, especially if you're growing up in a big city like LA or the Bay Area or New York, where I'm from. So sometimes it leads to the pitfall where we think we know it all because we see all these different cultures. I know what they're about. Chinese people there, Indians over here, Black people over here, Hispanics over here. I know what it's about now. I've been around them long enough, but we really don't. We see the Americanized version, right? So when you go to a Ghana or you go to a different country and you really see things are different, you become less self-centered, and I think that's huge. So to give an example, like I did a table read yesterday, and it was a lady from East India or Tibet. She wrote a script about the burial process when people pass away over there, and how they need a priest or a male family member to perform the last rites in order for that person to be buried. Otherwise, they can't bury them, right? So they have this whole process. They have this whole mindset. They have all these rules for burials. Whereas over here, we'll pay somebody a few grand at a funeral home and they take care of it. And we never see the body. It's all, and they put them in a pretty casket. And then they, will go to the cemetery and there's a pretty tombstone and it's all done. And we never see the other side of it. You know what I mean? We don't see the body decomposing. We don't stay with the body. Like some people, they stay with the body afterwards, as for respect and different things like that. And that just opens up your mind and it just makes you a less self-centered person. As Americans, again, we think we're the center of the universe. We have all the money in the world. We have the best army. We have first of all, there's no we, you know what I mean? It's the government, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it as well. The McDonald's culture, everything's quick, boom, zap it, it's done. Here you go. It's in a box. It's pretty. There you go.
Totally. Yeah. That was, what was funny is when I was in Ghana, that was one thing that I noticed that was different for me. It was just much closer, I don't even know how to explain it, but I was closer to the earth. It's just more, you got chickens and goats running around. I mean, it's still a city. There's car, Don't want to make it seem like it's just like some out in the middle of nowhere. I was in a major city, but still, even then, it's just like, people have their goats and then you kill the goat when you need something to eat. It's just like, it's right there. It's more, I don't even know exactly how to phrase what I'm saying, but it was just like things like that, which for them is like, what do you think you're eating when you eat a goat? And I'm just like, well, I'm not used to like seeing the animal that you're about to eat. That was, Another thing traveling is I think in America, we also think like, this is it. And this is like, if you weren't in America, there's actually, you can live a great life other places. There's a whole world out there. It's not just like, there's struggles in other places. There's people living great lives in other places and they're happy and they're doing well. And everything in between. There's just a whole world out there. This is not it.
On a serious note, I think it's borderline dangerous, because we have this false sense of familiarity and false sense of security. For example, I know when I travel from New York to here,
Yeah.
The street lights all look the same.
Uh-huh.
There's red light, yellow light, green light. The street signs are pretty much the same. They do this for a reason, right? You go to Utah, you go to whatever city, the highways are all paved the same. It's all the white dotted lines. So there's a sense of familiarity, and you drive by, and there's going to be a McDonald's sign, and there's going to be a Walmart, and there's going to be the cookie cutter houses. Everything pretty much looks the same. It's just the name of the city is different. But if you didn't know if somebody dropped you off in Montana or wherever, Florida, and you didn't know where you were, you could trick yourself into saying, I'm still in LA or I'm still wherever.
Right.
As far as how things look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very comforting, right? Human nature wise, but at the same time, that's some scary shit. It's some scary shit.
Yeah.
I mean, some sort of indoctrination, psychological shit, man. Like, it scares me, to be honest.
That everything is the same.
Everything is the same, and the fact that I draw comfort from that, like it was actually comforting for me when I drove by McDonald's when I first got here.
Yeah.
I'm driving. You have that sense of not knowing where you are, and that's just that kind of insecure state, right? And then I would see a McDonald's, or I would see a set of homes that looked familiar. That was oddly comforting to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's backwards. I don't think that's a good state to be in.
It's just human nature though. Is it a good state or is it a bad state? I mean, it is interesting how when it's just human nature where we like to get out and explore, but it's very comforting to have familiar things. I've noticed when I do travel, like I'm not sitting here like, just personally, I'm not like all patriotic all the time. America this, like, yeah, America. But then when I do travel, on the one hand, like I'm seeing all these things and seeing like all these things, this is better, this is great. But when I see American things or even other American people, it's comforting. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? Just like hearing somebody talk with an American accent when you spend months somewhere else is just like really comforting. And it just, there's a connection there that, I don't know. Is it a negative thing? It's just,
I don't know if I'm judging it, but it's an observation.
Yeah.
And for better, it's a conclusion as well. For better or for worse, we're Americans.
Right.
We're Americans, whatever that means. For better or for worse.
I think everything is, I think what it means is just culture, it's a cultural, everything is culture, I think that's my conclusion is that, different cultures get uploaded into our brains, wherever you're from, that's the culture you got. And I think that, explains everything, and misunderstandings come from that. And, I noticed when I really felt like American all the way. I remember of all places I was in Thailand years ago, and I was still playing basketball. I found a court where international people were playing basketball. And I was playing with some like European guys and like from all over. And just the way they played basketball, like there was one guy from New York who was playing, and like all these other guys were like complaining about fouls and crying. And on that basketball court, I was so American all the way. I was like, fuck these pussy ass European, like, and I was just like, yeah, me and the New Yorker were like, yo, like, because that's what we're used to. In that context, we had this bond. Whereas back here, like, I don't know if we would have had anything in common, but in that context, so. Yeah,
I think it's important as a free thinker, and we try to be free thinkers, or we try to consider ourselves as free thinkers.
Yeah.
But again, for better or for worse, we're still here. We're still part of the machine, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
You could be the most independent motherfucker in the world, who's whatever side you're on, you know what I mean? But you're still part of the machine because you grew up here. You're here. You pay taxes, whatever, right? So I think that's why traveling is so important. You kind of disconnect from that umbilical cord. you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely admire you for that. The fact that you do
I
just take the time and just get
Yeah.
out of Dodge. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I think
I
that's
think it's good.
huge.
You know, that same, I think everything good, like that observation that you're making, about that comfort you find in these things. I think like everything is, I don't think all of these aspects of human nature are good or bad. They're both. In some contexts is great, and some contexts is terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Like it
Go
okay.
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, like, you know, you when you find that familiarity with a person in another context that you may never have had any, you know, you wouldn't realize that you have so much in common with them, but then you're put in this crazy situation and now you appreciate them differently. In that other context, you can kind of bond together against all these other people, but that same aspect of human nature is also, you know, what people is tribe, you know, is tribal, and then you bond together and you committing atrocities against other people. Like it's the same aspect of the human mind that is, you know, you can
Everything's fluid. Like the guy from New York that you played basketball with, you guys were brothers on the court. Only athletes understand that, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to speak to them. You're throwing no look passes, and you just met them. Like you have this non-verbal thing going or whatever. But then, let's say after the game, you guys decide to go eat. You could easily have a much more stronger connection with one of the European players over a dish or over something else.
Whatever it might, you know, the different, you know, different contexts, just you're looking at things completely differently.
Yeah, for sure. And let me elaborate a little on the McDonald's thing. The reason why it's scary to me, I should have said this earlier, but okay. On one hand, I feel comfort from seeing the McDonald's when I'm in a new state by myself.
Yeah.
And I just got here. Yeah. Right. And I'm missing home or whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, I hate McDonald's. I don't eat McDonald's.
Right.
I think they're evil. Right? I think they're evil because they put these killer preservatives in food that they market to children.
Right.
So that's what I find scary. The fact that I'm drawing comfort from this thing, which I detest,
Uh-huh.
So that's what's scary to me.
It is. Yeah.
So that's yeah. In that sense, I'm an American. I'm trapped in this thing, in this weird thing. You know, I'm getting comfort from this thing that I hate.
Right.
You know, and
it's in some kind of way, you know. Yeah. No, it's dangerous. It's great. Yeah. It's dangerous.
So that's where that conflict comes from.
Yeah. I think.
So when you got back, did you go back to Ghana, or was that it? The last time
I just went this past year. I was there from October through the end of December. So I finished up the last quarter of the year in Ghana. Just completely just to do something different.
I will say this: they have some of the most beautiful women in the world over there. So that's definitely on my bucket list to at least see.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd love to go. I mean, Africa in general. I don't know. There's so much there. It's like it's just one little place.
And you were in Accra. Were you in the capital? Is Accra?
Yeah, I was in Accra. I guess that's how you say it. And I was there for most of the time. I traveled up the coast and went to some of the smaller villages there too, which was cool.
And you said it was safe, but there's certain parts in Africa that people just can't go freely in and out, right? Because it's too dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to say Africa is, it's the world, you know? I don't know. There's the greatest variety of everything in Africa. So you can have the safest place, you can have the most dangerous place, you can have the tallest people are in Africa, the shortest people are in Africa, everything. It's just, you know, it's like Earth, you know, what it.
Egypt is Africa.
Egypt is Africa. Egypt is not Ghana. Ghana's not Nigeria. It's not South Africa. Not, you know. So I can only but it's very safe.
Now that things have opened up, do you have any other plans of doing some more traveling anytime soon?
Nothing lined up, but I'm always ready to go. Always ready to go. So absolutely, I love.
So you're in town now. You're back at it, full fledged. You said you just you're working on a play now. Can you talk about the play that you're working on?
Oh yeah. I actually just finished shooting a film. I haven't worked in like over a year. I came back and got a film that I just did, and yeah, I'm doing my first theater thing at the Wallace Annenberg Theater.
Okay.
It's gonna be it's theater, but it's gonna be streaming. So when I got it, they're like, so this is theater. There's no live audience, and we're gonna stream it. I'm like, it's a movie, but hey, it is theater. And I have start rehearsals next week, so we'll see. But I'm definitely looking forward to it and doing a couple of short plays. It's coming out for Juneteenth, actually, is when it's going to be streaming. So it's
How long will it be streaming for? How long?
Like a week around Juneteenth. I don't have all the info to give on it yet, so I can't. I don't know exactly, but I know that it's. I know it's at the Wallace Annenberg, and I know they're going to be, putting some press out for it soon, and I'll see.
So you're in the prep phase. You've got the
I'm just in the prep phase right now.
You got the script. You're breaking it down. All that stuff.
Yeah, I got the script, breaking it down. I haven't. I met the director, which is how I got it, but other than that, I haven't met the other people. So I'm just kind of gonna learn how this goes and how theater goes. I'm used to being very improvisational with my acting, so it's gonna be a new experience where it's just like you got 30 pages and to get to memorize and resist my urge to just change it up in the moment, because that's how I usually do it.
To top it off, theater performance is different from film and television performance. Obviously, you're mic'd up when you're on film or television.
Yeah.
All the camera and the shots are all pre-planned out, like to the T, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So can you discuss that a little bit as far as your approach and how it's going to be different for you because you're so used to film and television?
Oh, my approach to theater. Okay.
As far as your prep is concerned and other things that you're thinking about.
You know what? I'm kind of approaching it the same way. I mean, I just have more words that I have to have down and memorized, for lack of a better word. So from that standpoint, but I don't know, it hasn't really changed much of the approach. I think and I haven't done theater yet, so I might not be the best one. Like, I know my acting when it comes to film and television, and I got the approach down, and I coach people on that. And when it comes to theater, I'm gonna figure it out. But I do have a sense that like you're still doing the same thing. For all the thought about it being different, you still want to be natural. You want it to be real, and you want to come from a genuine place, and just bring some fun and freedom and be exciting and unpredictable, and do all the usual work, but just get into the perspective of the character and framing things so I can come from myself but be totally believable as this person with a different perspective. And
will you have to be conscious of as far as your voice projection and your body orientation, because you're never supposed to turn your back on the audience, right?
Right.
And you have to project yourself, even though there's no live audience. It's still a theater.
Yeah.
So,
No, that is true. So that will be something to kind of work out. The good thing is we have rehearsals.
okay.
So I think the important part is to bring a full character and bring freedom and passion and fun, and I'll work out, the body position. But you have to do the same thing on TV and film. Actually, is you come out there, you do some crazy shit, and they're like, actually, on this line, we need you over here to face this way. So you do blocking on film and television. You just do it right before the take. So maybe I'll talk to me after I do it and I'll explain all the differences. But my sense, honestly, right now is it's acting, and the differences are negligible as far as like you figure it out. Like if I have to speak louder, I can speak louder. If I got to speak quieter, I can do that. If you can't hear me, then I know that I got to speak up. I got to turn a certain way. That's like studying. To me, that sounds like studying like how to hit your mark.
Yeah.
Like,
just a couple of technical things, no big deal. But pretty much.
Yeah, that's not the hard part about acting. You can teach somebody to hit a mark in 2 seconds.
Gotcha.
There's the tape right there. Hit your mark.
Gotcha.
No, what's important is bring it fun. And I think if you're having fun, whatever that means when you're acting, it's kind of a generic verb. I think if you're having fun and truly enjoying what you're doing, when people watch, they'll just be taken in by it. You see someone doing some terrible acting, but they're just relaxed up there and having fun, you're probably going to enjoy it anyway, even though it's like, it's not the most real, but they look like they're having fucking fun. So I'd like to be real and all that too, but the most important thing is just have fun and be free. Hope it ends up being entertaining if people are like taken in by it.
Is that your approach now? I mean, you've been acting for a while and you've taken it so seriously at points and stuff like that, but would you say that's good advice for an aspiring or beginning actor? Like, have fun, enjoy it, and that'll come across.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the number one thing I would say to the beginning actor is just learn, just learn to say your words naturally. Sounds like the most simple thing, but I've seen like a lot of talented actors and less talented actors and coaches. And the one thing that I come back to that seems to be like the through line for like talented, what we call talented people, is just the people that have like, they seem to just say shit naturally because they're just more relaxed. And I don't even know if that's a talent. I think that's just a choice. Like if I say like, your life depends on just saying this line believably, you figure out a way. It's when you're trying to impress some people and do all these other things that it gets in the way and it comes off phony. But yeah, I think first step, acting, before we get into all the other work we do, I think the first thing is you just learn to like, forget emotion, forget like finding all these emotions, just say these words as yourself completely naturally. Just figure out a fucking way. And then who you are will shine through because you're just getting out of the way. And a lot of people have a whole career because they might not have like some deep talent. They might not even be super passionate about acting, but you know what they're able to do? They have a natural charisma about them, not even charisma. They're just themselves. They say the words, and when they're right for it, they get it. And you can work a long time just, without studying acting to do anything. Just kind of like force yourself to say some things relaxed and naturally.
Be relaxed and be natural.
Yeah. And people say easier said than done, but at the same time, I do think it's a choice because I've had this conversation with people that I know are like, I'm like talented. I'm like, why are you so natural? They're just like, I just want to be. And, I remember I had a realization. I was actually coaching a kid who got this lead in a movie, like a drummer. And he'd never acted before in his life, but he was a drummer. He was a thing, so that's why he got a shot at this. And he couldn't act at all. He never acted. He knew nothing. He was doing it. He was just like fucking terrible. And I couldn't get into him about like, here's your backstory. That means nothing to him. He's just, and at one point, I remember just telling him like, I don't give a fuck what you do. Like the next word that comes out, it better just sound natural. Like if someone's walking by, they can't know that you're acting. And what's weird is that like I kind of like got harsh with him, like stop this shit. Like it better sound like I was just kind of shit, right? And he was just had a good rapport with him, but I like put a little fear in him, like don't say some fake shit right now. I don't care if it's good. It just better not be fake. And ran the lines again, and somehow he fucking figured it out. And then like some actual emotions like hit him too. And then it like came out. I said, what the fuck? It was like his brain did this whole fucking calculation. And he turns out he knew how to act. He didn't know, but it was in there somewhere. So like if you're just starting out, yeah, just like if your life depends on being natural, you'll figure out a way to just be natural and not worry about being good. I was talking with another actor friend the other day. I was like, we act all the time. You know, if you're working like, if you're like undercover, you know, you're under like in a criminal organization, right? You're working undercover. That's real fucking acting, right? You're pretending to be some criminal that you're not or whatever it is, but you're in a situation where getting found out could get you killed. I bet you'd figure that shit out real quick, how to, you know, like to whatever level you can. You know what I mean? If your life depends on it. So
you make Denzel look like a bad actor under that circumstance.
Well, there's different parts of acting. You might not have the same presence and charisma as Denzel, but you'll be fucking real. So
you will be the character for sure, 100%.
Yeah, if you're forced to. So yeah, to anyone, well, starting out, reminder to anybody, any actor, just fucking be natural, like your life fucking depends on it. And the cool thing is once you relax enough to be natural, then all the other things that we're looking for actually just magically come out. Then the emotions come out. Then it's actually charismatic. Even if you're not charismatic in life, just the fact that you're up there so fucking relaxed, on set so fucking relaxed, just saying it like it's nothing. All of a sudden it looks fucking good. And you didn't do anything but just fucking, you know.
We have similar philosophies as far as acting is concerned. I've gotten to a point, I haven't been in class with you or seen you as far as acting in a while, but I kind of put a label on my philosophy of acting, which is like minimalist naturalism, right? And the example that comes to my head is, for example, we all, you know, we see the TV or the news. Let's say the police chief is reporting on a crime. Let's say there was a forest fire or something and a car burned down or whatever. When the guy's up there speaking, he's not acting. He's not putting any intonations or inflections or emotion, or he might be emotional about it. Let's say if a child passes away or whatever, but he's just basically saying it, right?
Right.
He's saying it. And now if we're trying to recreate life, with that being said, logically, if you're just there and you say the lines naturally, that's really all you have to do to make it real.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't add this feeling to everything else that you think you're supposed to, because that's not what happens in real life. The story is going to tell you that, you know?
Exactly. And of course, it depends on the production as well. Again, if it's Glee, then you got to add something to it, something strange and foreign. But if it's a Gus Van Sant project or something along those lines, where somebody who likes natural performances, you really don't have to do anything except take away. It's more you're taking away.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. That's probably like the talent that we're talking about. That's why we see that talent, and it's like, is that talent or just like, I think it is talent.
It is a talent, because they say it is, because they say people are more scared of public speaking than they are of dying. I think there's a statistic. Right. So with that being said, it takes a talent. Not everybody comes from your background. Not everybody comes from my background, where they've been through some rough times. That makes it easy to cut through the bullshit or cut through certain insecurities that other people might have. Yeah. Right. So that is a talent. That's a talent that was bred of life experience. Right. But to certain people standing up there, they just feel judged. Is my stomach protruding or whatever? I don't even know. Is my nose too big? Whatever it may be. Yeah. Is that girl not going to like my hair or not? I don't know. Whatever. But because they have all of these things, that's a barrier to that naturalism.
Right. Right.
So that takes practice, and that's a process. And it's not easy for everybody like it is for you.
Yeah, although, and I've actually thought about this a lot, because I've talked to people and I've worked with people, and it is, in a practical sense, it's not easy for everybody. But it actually is, if you just get the other shit out of, because I've been in a situation where I've been with them, I'm like, just fucking stop the bullshit. I don't care about anything. So like anybody can, it's not like a talent where it's like talent in sports is like, if you can just jump higher than anybody else, like I can't teach you to fucking jump higher. You can work out and get better. And there are certain parts of acting that are like that I would say fall more into the talent category. For example, some people are just going to have more of an ability just to get lost into that moment. You know what I mean? Like I do think that's a talent. Like you just, you know, you do a scene, you just bring that fucking, you know, passion that you bring to a scene. That's talent, right? There's a way that for some reason you got a little screw loose and you totally believe you're in this fucking world.
Mm-hmm.
That's an imagination talent that can be developed, but I think some people just have a natural imagination more than others. Some people have a natural ear. I happen to be pretty good with accents because I can do accents. Still takes a lot of work. There are other people who are more talented, but I'm more talented than most when it comes to accents. So that's talent. Just being natural, you don't have to be you don't have to believe anything. You don't have to have any of these other talent things. You can just relax and say some words naturally. It's not going to necessarily make you the greatest, most fascinating actor in the world, but that will take you so fucking far and be the basis for everything. So I actually don't think being natural is in and of itself a talent. I think life experiences and, you know, however you think about things can influence it. But if I just tell you to just say this shit as naturally as you fucking can, even if you're not an actor, you can figure out a way. But that's what I think. Because I've watched and I've made people do it who are just not. And it's like, oh, you can do it. But then what happens is you stop wanting to because you want to do more.
Maybe talent isn't the word, but let's call it a skill then. It's a skill.
Yeah. The natural, I'd fall more into the...
It's a skill that you can develop with practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And things such as meditation helps develop that skill, where you're allowing thoughts to pass through until you can eventually get to a place where there's possibly no thoughts for a period of time. Because when you're up there and you have naturally as a human being, you have these thoughts. When they say action or you're in front of the class or whatever, if you're thinking about anything else other than the scene or having no thought, then you're kind of fucked. Right? It's gonna block you from that naturalism, unless it pertains to the scene or the situation.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different. This is why, you know, I love acting. There's so many different nuances and different parts of this, and what part is the skill part, and what is the talent, and how do we know about that? I do think when you say on meditation, absolutely, because that's building. Like I said, that's building your concentration, your focus muscle.
Yeah.
Is what meditation is, right? Is what it's about. So that's I definitely think that's going to help in a certain area of acting. But you know, sometimes it's really fucking fascinating. Like, we don't know what's going on in your head. You could be so fucking self-conscious in a scene and totally think you're out of it, and it just comes off, you know, great. So that's
true. Yeah, that's true.
The skill is just getting to I guess the skill would be the skill of not giving a fuck if you're good or not, which will relax you. What gets in the way of being natural is, you know, trying to do something interesting or really trying too hard, you know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could argue or talk about this ad nauseum, but I actually heard Hugh Grant, he actually has full-blown panic attacks while he's working.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, what, you know, I guess it depends. There's really no answer to any of these, you know, thoughts and ideas, but that's what they are. That's what's the beauty of it. These are all thoughts and
fun
ideas.
to like talk about and like break down like this is why like I will like break down and parse out like every little thing. Like, well, is this talent or is this skill? And what about this? And it's like, you know, you can get lost in that too much if you spend too much time on that. That might not actually help your acting, because there's something to be said for just going out there. Forget about all that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be different for, like, at the end of the day, it's going to be different for everyone else. Some actors are chill, never like have a worry at all. And then others, some greats, are like having panic attacks and nervous the whole time. They're pretty amazing actors too.
Yeah. So they say art is subjective. So I guess that also lends credence to what we're talking about. Everything is subjective, right? It depends on who's looking at it and what the situation is.
Yeah.
Who's to say who's to say somebody's opinion is right and somebody else's is not right? You know what I mean?
Right. And who's to say if our, you know, as you know, we're like on the same page, but who's to say that if we're saying the same thing, if we actually mean the same thing, and the same, you know, all this stuff gets kind of like filtered through our experiences and this and that. So it's just kind of yeah, you can't, how can you be so definitive about anything, because it all means something different to somebody else.
And that's a in that sense, I should check myself, right? I should check myself and say, if Mary likes Glee and I happen to like Daniel Day-Lewis, which I don't in particular, he's great or whatever, but I'm just saying, for example, doesn't mean I'm better than Mary. You see what I'm saying? Right. It doesn't mean I'm better than Mary.
Yeah.
It's all subjective. We should all be humble. You know, again, it's just interesting to talk about and to think about. You know what I mean? But we all have our taste. We all have our tastes.
Yeah.
We all have what
and
we
some
like.
Some people have terrible taste.
Exactly.
So that can be all, and that's all true. And I agree with you. And it's good to be humble, but you know, at the end of the day, you're human. Like, you look at some shit and you're like, that's fucking trash, and you're stupid for liking it. And I'm sticking with that.
This is true. I mean, even
but in a broader sense, you know, you're absolutely right. But you know, we're also human, so
yeah,
you know, lean into all that contempt for everyone else. I think that's healthy too. I think that can help your acting. You know, you don't want to be too caught up in like in the middle on everything.
This is true. Stay true to yourself. So yeah, definitely a lot of food for thought talking to you. And for anybody out there who's interested, I'm going to put the link to your play in the description box, as well as a link to the best way to contact you if anybody's interested in private coaching.
Okay, absolutely.
And things of that nature. And I definitely want to thank you for your time. If there's anything else you want to add that you'd like to say as far as anything, please feel free now.
Covered a whole bunch, nothing burning right now. Like I said, we dive into the nuance of acting. I can just keep on, and the human mind, I can go on forever about it. So
cool.
Yeah,
but thank you for your insight, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. And I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. And congrats on taking that step. You know, 7 years later, getting with Aqua. That's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Appreciate it. I'm going for it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to take it. I see nobody's going to give it to me. And that's what this podcast is about. Actors Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. You see that little thing? It's more of a disease. It's less glamorous, and it's not what everybody thinks. And it's a process. And the people that I talk to, such as yourself, I appreciate the candid experiences that you have. And it's not all flowers and candy. You know what I mean? It can be a struggle at times. So
yeah, absolutely. But you stay focused on, you know, what matters in the craft, and you do that. And I recognize that in you from the start. So keep that up, man. Good shit is coming.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It works out.
Thank you very much, and much respect to you for staying true to the game. I know you're going to continue to do that. And again, I look forward to seeing the play and whatever else. You said you had another movie in the works.
Yeah, I just finished a film called Requiem Boogie. That should be coming out towards the end of this year. Don't have all the information on that yet. I don't know what I can put out there yet, but yeah, looking.
That's shot already? That's wrapped? You're done with that?
That's wrapped. Okay. Yeah. So I just finished shooting that a couple weeks ago. First time shooting something in over a year, so that was good. And on to the next one. We'll see what's next. Going to coach in New York. I'm doing some on-set coaching next month. So I'll be out there for a month.
That's exciting.
Yeah, working on some on-set coaching on a horror film. So yeah,
Multiple actors or one actor for that?
one actor, just the lead actor. So I'm looking forward to that. And,
That's huge, man. Congratulations on that. That's huge.
yeah,
You know, not everybody knows there's not a lot of on-set coaches. That's a very specific skill. So to be able to be booked as an on-set coach, that's huge. So yeah, congratulations on that, brother.
man, I appreciate it.
And then I'll leave a link to whatever else, the movie, the play, and also your contact for the coaching, as I said. And yeah, man, stay up. It's great seeing you again.
All right, you too, man. Great
All
talking to
right,
you.
all right, my pleasure. All right, take care. Peace.